Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Apogee of the Moon or Moon Apogee Astrology, however you want to say it. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Jenny Kinsella. I work with Jenny with Astrology with Heather. We are both TAs for her lovely courses that she has, and we get to interface and interact and be with all the students. But Jenny is also an independent professional astrologer, just like I am, and she runs her own business, Astro Soul Alchemy. So welcome to my channel, Jenny.
Thanks, Shanna. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. This is an exciting time going into the age of Aquarius.
Right?
But yeah, so like Shanna said, I work with Shanna in the Cosmic Academy of Astrology, and we have a great time there working with all the students and teaching them and helping them become astrologers just like us. And I have my own practicing astrology business as well. So I'm available for readings. You can find me on social media. And yeah, I live in Ireland. So I work mostly online if I'm not working with anybody here in person. So yeah, I'm excited about this conversation here today and everything that's coming up for us in the future. There's a lot of interesting things happening.
I know, right? And our backgrounds kind of say like similar
Yeah.
stories, right?
Yeah. What's coming and what can be.
Yeah, what can be at the highest and the maybe not so highest expression.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so today on our channel, what we're doing is we are collaborating and talking about Pluto. We're talking about the deep and transformative and controlling and manipulative and it's all the things, right? Like
Yeah.
it's psychological. Pluto is very psychological. So we are going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. We're also going to be talking about what's going on with the Sun conjunction to Pluto, and that's at 29 degrees 59 minutes. That's at the very final degree, final minute of Capricorn, and it's kind of like the big hurrah out of Capricorn, right? I mean, I know Pluto's going to dip back for a couple of months, right, Jenny, in the fall time,
Yeah.
and then leave for good in November of Capricorn. But this is kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's going to highlight anything that we need to see now, the last few bits that we need to tie up or finish up that we didn't get finished, or, just that like urgency is there now. And I mean, we can revisit that in September when it goes back, but right now it's showing us everything that needs to be tied up and everything that is about to start, as it moves through, because they move through together to Aquarius. So that this is coming through together. You know, and I think in a mundane and the worldwide level, it's really bringing up a lot of things. We can see a lot of darkness being exposed at the moment in many different areas. So it's showing those things too, and showing that up for everybody.
And the panic as well, because Pluto has
Yeah,
rulership over fear, and there's a lot of that going on,
true.
right? And fear
Yeah,
mongering too.
true.
But yeah. So why don't we first start with the Sun Pluto conjunction? Let's start there. So the Sun in astrology, for those that don't know, if you're new to astrology, is all about the soul's expression, right? It's about what lights us up. It's about what brings us joy and all of that. And we'll be going through how this is hitting all 12 signs as well once we go through our synopsis. So those of you that want to skip this part, you can, I guess, but you're going to get more information if you watch all the way through and then go to your specific sign. But yeah, the Sun is about our soul's expression, what lights us up, what brings us joy. It's also our ego as well. And so I find it interesting that the Sun Pluto conjunction happening at 29:59 is kind of bringing up much darker topics, and you see a lot more with like powers that be, like people that are in charge of these corporations and governments and things like that, where there's this kind of narcissism that's going on, right?
Yeah, I
And
agree. Yeah, totally.
yeah, and like the real truth being revealed, right? And it's a lot
For sure.
darker and more sinister than what people have thought even.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can see it in many different areas, and with Pluto being in Capricorn up till now, it's been very much governmental things, authority figures, institutions. It's been very much so those in power, those who have that control. And while it did bring a lot of that down, it's still dredging up, and now we're at that 29 degrees and the sun is lighting it up. So it's like this is the last hurrah, like you say, we're going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and bring it all up, and it's really bringing up the darkness now. Yeah, for sure.
What
But
is
that's
it
the
like?
process.
Yeah, no, it totally is. Pluto is. I mean, it will completely bring up all the word. I don't know if it translates like across the world or not, but the dredges, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're dredging something,
Yeah.
it's all that stuff that gets stuck on the bottom, and
Yeah.
like that all needs to come up, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure. It's
that's
bringing it all up for us to see
yeah.
and expose it and release that. That's kind of what's going on with this full moon then that you were talking about. We were talking about before as well. Like, so it's kind of giving us that space. They're moving those things out of us, out of the way for the new.
Yeah. And then of course, you have all of these like these governments right now. Like in the beginning, when Pluto first entered Capricorn, it was the housing crisis, right? Do you remember that? That was
Yeah.
way back. That was back in 2008. And I remember that being on the news constantly, but I remember
Mhm.
it not affecting me as much as it is now. I don't know, maybe there's just more awareness as we get older of all of these things.
Yeah, and the financial crash too. Remember the banking
Mm,
crisis? So it was like all these institutions at once, kind of, and we can see as that progressed through that Pluto cycle, how it's changed to digital currency almost completely, like, which is bringing in a whole new sense of control and power to different people. And that's tilted from where it was in that people's hands for a little while. If
yeah.
we think back, to cryptocurrency, there was a little bit of, people were making money on that and they took back that control. So let's see where where it goes with Aquarius.
Yeah, we'll have to see because with the sun and Pluto moving into Aquarius at the same time, I think it's going to be really interesting for the digital currency.
Mm,
Just because that's like the sun also represents authority figures and authority, period, right? Like it's also that.
yeah,
And so I do wonder if there's not going to be some type of authoritarian kind of
yeah.
autocratic control going on, especially because it's Aquarius and it has to do with like
Mhm.
the interweb and the internet and all of that as well. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all actually plays out because it's not going to be all good and it's not going to be all bad. There's going to be a mixture of the light and the shadow.
Exactly. And it's kind of finding a way for it. I mean, Aquarius is going to want to make it for the greater good for everybody. Like, it's going to want to kind of make a group aspect of it, a community element to it. Whereas that has to release that control, but that might take. I'm sure there's going to be ups and downs that'll happen with that. Like you say, that there might be restrictive and um kind of rules placed on digital currencies, or governments seem to be taking them on. I think they're trialing them out. Where I know in Ireland we've got like we have places that won't take cash anymore. We were predominantly a cash society here, and now it's like, no, we don't want cash. And you have the other extremes where there's other countries where they only use or only use digital currency, but then it's like people can see all everything that's happening and what you're doing and what you're spending your money on. And people don't want that kind of um
Scrutiny.
tracking, or yeah, scrutiny. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't anyway.
no, exactly. And that's the thing though, is that that's where like I know here in the United States there are places that like to take digital currency and they're pushing like the Apple Pay, they're pushing the digital wallets, they're
Mm.
pushing the digital currency. The United States actually has its own digital currency now. But I don't know a lot about it. I haven't really researched it that
Okay,
much. I
right.
don't know if it's active or if they're working on it, but I know I was listening to like a newscast about the upcoming digital currency, and they're talking about the transparency of it and really see, this is what the newscaster said, we're really going to be able to see where people are spending their money. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Mm.
but why do you need to know where I'm spending my money? Like, that's my question. Why is that so important to you? But attention, right? And what we do as people, right? The Aquarian masses, what we do is currency to them.
Definitely.
What
Yeah.
we spend our time on, right? Like these things right here, I don't know if you can see it, but like
Yeah.
these things,
That's it.
right? And so putting ads in your face and all of that, that's also a thing with this Pluto and Aquarius, is I think there's going to be a lot more digital marketing and things in your face about it. What do you think?
I think you're right. And even just when you showed me the phone, I was like, but that's us. Like, we're literally giving away our power, even though we know it. We consciously know what we're doing. And but yet there's some kind of draw to that that makes it worth it, even though it's not. We're just distracting ourselves from reality, but at the same time, we're giving away our power completely, and somebody isn't giving away their power, and they're all capitalizing on it on us. So it's a new level of control in a different way. I mean, like it's just there's no peace in the world anymore because we're all so busy, and it is that Aquarian energy. We're slightly disconnected from everybody. Everybody is just a little disconnected from everything else, and
Yeah,
it's kind of that's a good way to have it if you want to take control. If somebody wants to you know slip things by you, you're distracted with this, and that seems to be a theme in recent years with the media and things like that. It's like, oh, this is happening over here, and while that's happening, we'll pass these laws or we'll do whatever, and you won't notice, and you won't think too much about it. Um, on one hand, and on the other hand, there's a great community element in that, the fact that we can learn so much and we can find out so much, and there's calls to action, and things are exposed online that weren't before. You don't have the government controlled media or whatever. People can actually put up like what's happening at the moment in Gaza, and everybody knows these things now. So it's like at least there's this awareness and people can see what's happening, and there's calls to action with regards to those kind of things, which wouldn't have happened before. So it's kind of making sure you have that right balance is the thing about it, to make sure that you're not giving away your power, you're using that because it's a power for us as well as giving away our power. Like, so it's just kind of using it in the right way is the best
right.
course of action, I think.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. And what's funny is that you brought up like the media and stuff. The other thing that I saw recently was have you heard, I mean, you must have heard even over in Ireland about the 10-foot tall creatures in Florida
No, I haven't.
at the mall.
I
Oh,
didn't. No,
you'll have to look it up.
I'll have to look that up.
I'll find
Yeah.
some of the posts and send it to you. But there was the official right story is that there were like 20 plus juveniles with like what is it, fireworks and sticks
Oh,
in
okay.
the mall, and but there were
Okay.
over 200 police called to this mall. And the eyewitness testimonies that are coming out, like there's no video because apparently there was like a confiscation of anything that was recorded from the police, like
Okay.
taking these, yeah,
So
taking
the police took any recordings?
took any recordings,
Right,
took
okay.
people's devices and took the recordings off of the phones, right? So there's a control mechanism there, right?
Okay.
With that. But there's people that were above in the apartments above the mall got footage of like this huge police presence at the mall. People were screaming in the mall, running away. And the verbal testimony is that there were 7 to 10 foot tall creatures in the
What?
mall.
They
And
weren't juveniles, they were actually, what kind of creatures were they?
I don't know. Like someone was saying aliens, someone was saying they don't know
Right,
what they
okay.
were, right? But they were
It's,
like, they were popping in and out, right?
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really weird. Like it's one of those things. And
Mm,
when it happened, it was kind of interesting that it was actually when Mercury was squaring Neptune. Mercury Mars
right,
conjunction squaring Neptune.
right.
That was that
Okay.
whole thing. But like the control mechanism of like the authority, right? This Pluto and
Yeah,
Capricorn of them confiscating anything that would be leaked to the public, right? Through social media.
right. Okay.
So I found that interesting.
That
But
is interesting.
people are saying
Yeah,
aliens, and then there's other
right.
footage of like alien things going on over bases, like alien planes over bases, or
Yeah,
UFOs, or
yeah.
whatever they're called.
Oh, and that wasn't that recently confirmed that wasn't there something recently confirmed that that there was alien forms did exist, and that that was kind of like, okay, yeah, we admit that this is a thing now, and
Yeah, that was
yeah, so that was
yeah,
recent as well. We're
that was
coming into
actually
that time.
I think that was the last time Pluto entered Aquarius last year.
Right,
That
okay,
came to public.
right.
I know the Mexican government has said that they have alien mummies, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, they're little
I
tiny
hadn't
things
heard
too.
that.
Like the pictures of them, you can see them. They're little tiny things.
Okay.
They're no bigger than like a child.
Oh, I haven't heard any of that. I'll have to look into it. This will be the new focus, I'd say, for people. Some people will be finding all these things, and we don't know what's going to come up in the next
And that's the
little
thing.
while.
You
Yeah.
also don't know what's real,
Yeah, true. That's true as well.
right?
Yeah.
Because with AI can completely, and this is another thing with Pluto and Aquarius, like AI is becoming huge, right?
Yeah. Mm.
And so you can actually AI, we could we could be AI right now.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
how
I
real
know.
it,
Yeah.
it looks now.
Yeah.
There was actually a webinar that I was on where a gentleman was trying to sell um, his course and a few other things, and he said he's not live on this live webinar. It's his AI avatar that's
Oh my
speaking,
gosh.
sounding like him, looking
Wow.
like him. So this is all coming up, right? As we enter this Pluto and Aquarius. It's
Yeah.
insane. Like you don't know what
Yeah.
to believe. So like those of you that are out there that are watching this, yes, I am real. I know I'm real. Jenny knows she's real.
Yeah, I'm definitely real.
Our backgrounds are kind of like not necessarily real. I created this one with AI, but I wanted to show what I mean, this is what I want my future to look like.
Yeah.
Just behind me, right? Like
Definitely.
I would love that. But yeah, just the sharing of information, I really like that. Um because I've recently gone down like this whole homestead rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
and and so like that's also a thing too of people pulling out of society,
Yeah.
right?
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think between these two realities we have behind us?
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, it like the whole idea, the theme that we had with this was to show that Pluto transformation, that how it can go from one thing to another, what it can be. We're using that Aquarius humanitarian um way of looking at things in that perspective, and those motivations. So I mean, there's probably going to be people who are happy to go along with, I mean, I feel like it's going to be, and I don't know, but just what I would imagine is that it's going to be a lot of, we've had a lot of restriction and control in the last while with, Pluto being in Capricorn, and I feel it'll just be done in a technological way, in an AI way. Like you're saying, we might be monitored, we might be kind of, there'll be digital currencies, and that could have effects on, you're not allowed to travel, or and it'll be much easier for those things if we have restrictions due to whatever it may be in the future, weather, or pandemics, or whatever it may be. These are the last ones that have been coming up. So, but I think that I would agree 100% with you about that. There'll be people who will from the get-go say, I don't want to be a part of that kind of world, and will maybe splinter off and be, it would be great if we can have that independence. And Aquarius is liberating, it's freedom, it's rebellion, it's community based, it's humanitarian. So I hope there's an allowance for that within the world, that we can create these separate kind of towns, cities, countries, even if we can get sovereignty in it as well, in that you can have these ways that actually we don't want to live like that. We want to, we have climate crisis, we have all these environmental worries that people need to focus on. And Pluto in Aquarius is part of that. Again, humanitarian considerations that we need to have. And that's something that's going to be really important. And, moving to a society that if you could create that, how, I don't know, but that's what these, we're going to be looking at technological advances, farming, like biodiversity, things like that. I just mentioned to you before we came on here about the Eden Project in Cornwall, where they
Yeah.
have created these, new climates within the south of England, and they've got like a Mediterranean biodome, they've got a rainforest biodome, and anything is possible. Not that you want to live in a biodome, but that it is possible to create these farming structures, and food dependency is something that's also a problem, as we know, in the past, with the nodes that have been going through Taurus and Scorpio, there
Yeah.
was food shortages and things like that. So, creating, I think, independence in societies, that you don't have to have, you know, only some people are rich and the rest of us are working to survive. We can now have this equality, we can now have this freedom, and we can all actually enjoy our lives and what we're doing, and it makes a difference and makes sense. So that's kind of what I would like to see. So, going from being controlled or going from being oppressed or repressed, and moving through that and finding that transformation. And even though Pluto has all these things, it is a healing energy. It is regenerative, like, so it does bring those things, forward. So I'd hope it will look like your background
Yeah.
as opposed to mine. Yeah,
But to do that, we have to completely destroy the old structures, right?
that's
I mean,
it.
that's
Yeah.
Pluto requires that. Pluto requires complete decimation and destruction when it comes to building everything from the core out, right?
Yeah.
So I hope for this future. I'm thinking it's going to be more along the lines of your future
I think it
behind
will, but
you.
it's a long transit.
Yeah, it is a lot. In 20 years, I mean, who knows what it's
Yeah.
going to look like on the other side. Um,
Hmm.
but if we go back in time, um, there was a lot of revolutions happening, like wrapping up or just beginning even around the time when Pluto last entered
Yeah.
Aquarius. I know it was the tail end of the American Revolution, the French Revolution.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about Ireland. What was that
Yeah,
before
like
we
in my
started?
hometown, yeah, in
Yeah.
Wexford, where I'm from, like, and anyone from Ireland, but especially from Wexford, will know the 1798 rising, and that was during Pluto and Aquarius, and that was a rebellion, an uprising, that the people in County Wexford, in multiple towns around the place, tried to kind of fight for independence, and take back, what was happening here at the time was pretty horrific, and people were trying to reclaim their lives. And so, like, in this town still, that's a big thing. It's a big important, like, we've statues, we've streets named after it, there's rebel songs, there's, like, it's a massive part of our history. So it's like, and that was
Wow.
included on Aquarius. When I was doing research, I was like, oh, it was 1798. We even have 1798 street here. So it's just the name of the street because of it, like, it's that prominent, like, in our town. But yeah, so that's kind of, and that was that coming together in the community. And at that time, obviously, there wasn't cars or social media or anything, but
Oh,
people did it throughout the different towns here. So they walked, they did all these things because they were that passionate about, trying to reclaim their lives and their land and everything. So yeah, we'll see what comes of it. It'll be interesting to see, especially with the nodes in Aries and Libra at the moment, to see what's going to happen, and what's going to, hopefully there won't be too much, there won't be new war there, and these things might get resolved
yeah.
a bit better, you know what I mean? But I don't want to see that, but it'll be interesting to see the transformation that might occur, because this is already happening, so
Yeah, well, and the nodes, I know I've been really thinking hard about the north and south node, which is something we can talk about too. I mean, this is
mhm.
a conversation. I've been looking at it that Chiron is transiting here, right, in Aries, and the north node is transiting Aries currently. And so there's going to be this upcoming eclipse in April is with
Mhm.
the north node, but it's bang on Chiron.
Right, okay.
You have the
Yeah.
eclipse. It's at like 19 degrees, I believe. Chiron's at 19 degrees. I think Mercury is also involved, but Mercury is a little bit farther out, but it's retrograde, right?
All right,
So I
okay.
think there's going to be a lot of like tempers. There's going to be a lot of people like being really fired up about something around the time that this eclipse happens. But with Chiron here, I think that there's this kind of this need, this want, this desire with the north node here to be independent, right, to be sovereign, to be, go on your own, do your own thing, right, But with Chiron here, there's kind of this like this wound, right? This like this shame or guilt of wanting this, of wanting to go on your own, of wanting to do your own thing. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I wonder, like, I know there's like peace talks and different things going on, and they've broken down. So maybe there could be some compassion here, and the Mercury retrograde could bring that around. And I'm being optimistic here, the Leo ascendant forever.
Same.
Yeah, that I would love to see that maybe gives it a time and actually sets that in motion. That maybe there's some kind of resolution, or there's some kind of, and I mean, there is going to be a vulnerability with that. So that could be another element of it. If somebody is not backing down, but maybe, uh, an olive branch or something like that. Or it could be that there is that kind of, shame or guilt that don't want to do that. And that could make somebody take more action, being an Aries and be impulsive. So, and do something that they wouldn't normally do because it's Mercury retrograde as well. So there could be something that goes on. So let's see, what that brings. Hopefully it'll be the better outcome.
Yeah, right.
We'll have to
Okay.
look at the rest of the
We'll have to
aspects.
we'll have to wait till we get closer to that to
Yeah,
talk about that. But yeah, I'm really this Pluto and Aquarius is going to be an interesting thing. And AI, I think, is going to really take off. I mean, it
I
already
think so.
has.
Yeah,
The cryptocurrencies, the AI, the rise of the machine, right? Like if we're thinking about it, I think Terminator, the original one of the original movies, it was set in the mid to late 2020s.
right. Okay.
Right. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I think it was there. I don't remember the exact year, but it was yeah, when AI became conscious and aware and said that no, people need to be exterminated because you're a plague on the planet or something like that.
Okay. Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, all I have to do is watch The Simpsons to know what's going to happen in the future, really. And I was watching it last night.
Oh, you're
And they had,
hilarious.
yeah, they had those holograms for people and everything. So what you were talking about, yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. And so who knows, like that's the other thing too with like one of the things I wanted to say with like the stuff that happened in Florida with those, 7 and 10 foot monsters, were they real or were they holographs?
yeah, yeah. Or
Right?
was a false flag?
Was
Who
it a false
knows?
flag? Exactly.
Yeah.
But like stuff like that of being able to discern what's real and what's not. So like I've come to the conclusion that if I see it online, I'll take it with a grain of salt unless I can see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah,
I
true.
if unless I can get all five senses around it, or at least four of the five senses, because I don't know about tasting people, but like
Yeah, fair.
getting at least four of the five senses involved and like knowing it's tangible and real, then I'm just gonna take it with a grain of salt as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think,
That's it. What's the purpose though? What's the purpose of that? What do we not know yet? What needs to be highlighted? What
yeah,
is what do we need to see, and what will be shown to us? That's
yeah.
going to be, interesting, worrying. Uh, I don't know. I hope
Because
it'll be good.
the two different sides of Pluto is also truth, right? But it's also lies.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
exposing that.
right. So
Yeah.
we'll see going forward. All right. Did you want to jump into the all signs?
Yeah, cool. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'll let you take the lead on this.
Did you want to talk about the full moon or anything first, though, before we do that?
Well, the full moon is going to definitely be activating this for each sign. But we don't have to go into detail about it. We can just talk about
Okay,
the next, Pluto and Aquarius. There's definitely a heavy
okay.
activation coming up with this full moon. But I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
it could definitely, while in the moment might not seem pleasant, I think overall it's going to be good.
Yeah, and I mean the sun is moving, like we mentioned, and it will have moved further away from Pluto at that point in Aquarius, but it's still highlighting that, and the sun is the ruler of the full moon, the house the moon is in as well. So that's the other side of it. So we've got a lot going on with that. With that full moon. Plus, like, and then all planets are going direct then a couple of days later. So,
Yeah,
there's a lot of things coming up at the moment that are gonna catapult us into this energy. We're not gonna go gently into it or anything. It's gonna, like, all start hitting,
It's
hitting,
it's not
firing on
gonna
all
go
engines.
slow. It's not gonna go
No.
slow. It's gonna be catapulting into it.
Yeah. That's it. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, a lot of people won't feel it, you know, it depends on what house it's in,
Yeah.
and it depends if it's hitting an angle or those kind of things.
Or
Some
planet.
people won't feel it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly what's in your natal chart. So if it's not um touching on a planet at the time or conjunct one or making an aspect, you won't necessarily feel it so much. But I suppose it's only the first 2 degrees is all it's going to be, you know,
Yep.
really felt in the first year that's and then a retrograde back into Capricorn for a little while. But I did actually, before I talk about Aries, I did actually notice an interesting thing, because I've had this aspect myself, but the Pluto square is going to be happening for a lot of people with the Pluto and Scorpio generation.
Yep.
And late degrees Pluto in Libra are still, you know, having that go on. So that's
Yep.
a kind of a difficult transit as well. So you know, that's something to kind of bear in mind, that that's going to be going coinciding with this for some people. And
Yep.
it is a kind of, I've gone through that, and it was with my personal planets as well. So it's kind of something that's like, it can be quite a challenge, you know, internally you have to kind of really dig deep and transform who you are at your core and find who you are, and, you know, really question everything about yourself and come around to it. So that'll be
Yep.
fun.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, I that Pluto
Uh,
square, man, because I have Pluto also in Libra as well. So I went through it too. And
yeah, yeah, you
I
know what I'm
think
talking about.
those of us that have gone through it can talk about it. And
Yeah.
we can help the next sign too, because we're both
Yeah,
Leo risings. We've had Pluto in our sixth house. We can help the Virgos
yeah.
with their transit.
Yeah. Oh, it's tough going. But yeah, hopefully there'll be it won't be so hard. It depends on what planets are there. You know, you
Yeah.
mightn't feel it too much otherwise. But yeah, sure, we'll get into it. Well, I'll start with the with Aries, should I, will I? And
Yeah.
we'll bounce back and forth, or you can add whatever
Oh yeah.
whatever you think too. So I kind of liked to look at it when I framed it with Aries, because for Aries it's in their 11th house, but it's also ruling their eighth. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, so it's ruling their eighth house as well. So like, they're moving out of their 10th house. So there's probably been a lot of, you know, career change and different things like that have gone on for Aries rising people. So this is kind of illuminating what needs to be finalized and finished up with that career change, and moving into the time where what rewards will come from that, because the 11th house ultimately will bring rewards from 10th house activities, you know,
Yeah.
building on that. So there
Well,
is some
and
of that, but there,
I'm sorry, I don't mean to
no, go
interrupt,
ahead.
but yeah, if we're talking about it moving, the Sun conjunction at 29, Capricorn also, because the Sun rules the fifth house, getting into a career that you're truly passionate about, that truly lights you up, right? For those Aries rising people, is where it's at for you, right? This is the final time
True.
to really do it, but it's also the time to really shine in your career and show people what you're capable of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially too
Yeah.
with the North Node being in their first house as well.
Yeah, and that's what's happening this year too as well. So that's really giving them that. And it's Aries rising. So they're really driven, they're really focused, and this is brilliant for them. But it is going to move into their house of friends and social networks. So they might meet some really kind of powerful or influential people, or become involved, or they might become, you know, more well known or more influential, you know, in what they're putting out there. People might be really drawn to them, or whatever. But using the internet could be something that really helps them with their work, and with that, or finding, or it could be like that they have this downtime, especially like you said, with the sun ruling the fifth house. Now, if that's kind of something, their passions or hobbies, they might find some new spiritual communities or humanitarian causes that they become focused on, or they might get into cryptocurrency or investing, because it's the eighth house as well, like that is ruling. So that could be something that kind of comes up in those methods. But it is something, it's a very kind of, you know, it's ruling the eighth house. So there is some kind of healing work that could be done there. So maybe some new alternative kinds of healing, or, you know, therapies that could come up as well, which could be helpful. But yeah, they could get kind of focused on humanitarian efforts in the next 20 years as well. This could
Yeah.
be a new part of their legacy that they bring through from that, from this move from Capricorn in the 10th to the 11th is in Aries, or sorry, in Aquarius. So, just focusing on those kind of things. But they could also have some challenges with friends, some control or power issues, and they could have a whole new set of friends by the end of this transit, you wouldn't
Yeah.
know. So, and that could make way for new alliances and friendships to be formed that are more in line with what they're moving towards.
The ride or dies.
Yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
that's what I kind of have for that. Have you got anything to add?
I was gonna talk about the humanitarian pursuits as well. Like they could be really the rabble rousers for,
Hmm.
just making changes on that social level.
Yeah,
Aries rising specifically, they could be really like pushing hard for social change and transformation, and you know what I mean, and being really passionate
definitely. Yeah,
about,
that warrior.
yeah, that warrior energy, and the what is it too, like the organizations, like the um not trusts, they're not trusts, that's the wrong word, but kind of like the philanthropic kind of ideation, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
being involved in things like Doctors Without Borders could be a thing as well, but like things like that where
Yeah.
it's about helping those that are being oppressed, right? Especially with
Yeah.
that Pluto there. And helping those kind of through technology as well, and helping
Yeah.
transform through technology. That's it.
I think that'll be the main part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, that's me
Taurus.
finished now.
Yeah, Taurus, this is going to be happening. So if you're an Aries rising and you know Taurus rising people, to a lesser extent, Taurus sun people and Aries sun people, you can help each other, right? Because you've gone through this transit of Pluto being in your 10th house. And for Taurus rising people specifically, Pluto has been in the ninth house. And Pluto rules the seventh house of relationships, right? So getting that
Yeah.
10,000-foot view on who you're relating to, how you're relating to them, even the types of, just because of the placement, that types of education and your worldview, how you see the world has probably been a scary place for the last little while. But deeply transforming and cathartic and healing, right? As well with that Pluto influence. And with the sun also rules the fourth house. So this conjunction at the end of Capricorn moving into the 10th house is kind of, to me, this is like a deep and a profound epiphany on who they are at a core level in general,
Mm.
right? And because the ninth house is a mental house as well. It's not just about travel, it's not just about education, it's also about
Yeah.
how we see the big picture and how we see ourselves in the world as well. And so the sun rules the fourth house of where they come from, their home, their parents, their roots, their ancestors. And so that could have a profound impact, like an epiphany of some kind coming through for them. And it completely changes what they decide to do in the future for their career, for what they're doing, for how they're putting themselves out there. It could be the technology that they use, right? Because we can't get away from that with Aquarius.
Mm.
But it could also be something that they thought would be a long-term thing with Pluto coming in here, especially if they're an early Taurus rising, or even Taurus sun. It could be something, a deep, profound change or a complete burning down of how they were once known, to be rebirthed again, especially.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. They could get really focused on their legacy, what they want to leave behind, who they want to be seen as. And I would imagine coming out of a ninth house Pluto transit, they've probably totally reevaluated their morals, philosophies, how they, their spiritual connections and who they are, like you said, at a core level, and tying that in there with that fourth house, who they are when no one else is around. It's like, this is, who I want to be seen as, and they're putting that out there. So yeah, I totally agree. And they could have done a whole higher learning during this transit
Oh
through the
yeah.
ninth house too. So they're bringing that through and putting that into practice in their career now and things like that. So yeah, I totally agree. I think there could be like a total overhaul, change in direction in their careers and legacies and how they're going about their work and things like that. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I
So they have
totally.
a big, and it's going to hit all angles. So it's going to hit like, you know, who you are, your home, your marriage, all this is all going to be brought in. Um, Not that it's going to like totally radically change all of that. The focus is on their career and their 10th house, but you know, it is still going to affect all those areas and bring some change, you know.
Yeah, it's going to transform how it is that they're known or who they want to be known as, like you said.
Yeah,
I like that
yeah,
because yeah, having a transit to the angles is always powerful. And because it's the angles, it affects everything, right? It will affect them personally as well. Because in
yeah,
a few
exactly.
weeks or what, like 6, 8 weeks or something like that, Venus is going to come through in conjunct in February. And
Which
so
is
that's,
good, you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
the ruling planet. So they themselves are going to have like a complete overhaul.
yeah, yeah. Brilliant. Okay, so Gemini is now in that ninth house. So they're moving into, you know, so every sign is can help the one before, like you said, which is a great way of looking at it, you know. And that's where they're going to start looking at their ideals. And Gemini is going to want to kind of check it all out. They're going to want to kind of explore everything. And it's an air-based sign, so it's Mercury rule. So it's going to be very much so aligned with that technological, you know, advanced learning, online learning, if they want to do some learning and things like that. God knows what it'll be like in a few years. They could be able to travel virtually, you know.
Oh
You
my
don't even need
gosh.
to leave your seat, who knows?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or there could be a whole new wave of astrologers, you know, we could have a whole, you know, and a new way of doing that. And especially with, you know, I see a lot of that with AI technology. That could be a whole field that comes about. Who knows what's going to happen in, and also spirituality and, you know, all those areas. These are all going to be kind of lit up with that. Or teaching, they could become, you know, teachers in these areas either. People with a Gemini ascendant, this could definitely be something. But question belief systems, like, because we kind of were talking about things that we know, but this is going to change radically. I know it is, like, so who knows what they're going to be doing by 2044, you know, or what it's going to be like in these areas. But I assume like foreign travel and you know, even for spiritual reasons or for this kind of development in philosophies, this will all be something that will be very driven to do. And our communities or you know, working in humanitarian areas for in foreign countries could also be something as well. They might even move to foreign places, but this could also be to do with their health as well, because that's, you know, the, you know, Pluto's ruling that sixth house. So health and, you know, workplaces and nutrition and things like that. It could be working with animals either, you know, things like that are also a part of this. So this could be all encompassed in this area. They, you know, they could go traveling, they could move away, they could, you know, need to do these things. You know, we don't know what climate change is going to bring for our health and things like that. So that's another kind of side to things, and our air quality and how we experience those things. But yeah, their belief systems, I think, will be the thing that gets the biggest overhaul for those Gemini ascendants.
Yeah, I think so too. And with it being conjunct, the sun being conjunct in their eighth house and moving into the ninth house, like
Yeah,
there's a release of old traumas, old baggage, old wounds, right? Because I mean, it's been transiting for Gemini risings for the last since 2008
yeah,
in their eighth house. So
yeah,
like traumatic experiences, things from early childhood or even, you know, possibly past lives coming up, right? And Pluto being in the sixth house can definitely bring on like health crisis as well,
mm,
right?
true.
Because it is, you know, it is the ruler of the sixth house, but a lot of it mental, like mental anguish and things like that too, in
Yeah,
the eighth house, because it's that psychological, it's a psychological house, even though it's, you know, it is a tangible house as well. But
yeah,
maybe going through like a death and a rebirth, right? And with the sun coming through here, the sun rules their third house of communication, right? So having this
right.
conjunction at the very end could be like illuminating their old traumas in such a way that it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been holding on to this for so long and releasing it. And now they need to figure out who they are and
Yeah,
what they
that's
believe
really good.
with
Yeah.
that ninth house, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, they've gone through that dark night of the soul pretty much, and they're coming out the other side of it, you know. Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, communicating that or communicating that to others, you know, with that, aspect of,
Yeah.
helping other people, with
Publishing,
Aquarian
right? Ninth
energy.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there could be a lot more writers, Gemini.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that could definitely be a thing.
They're revolutionizing the field of writing
Yeah.
and books and
And
all of that. Yeah.
yeah, or even these kind of like, because that's going to change too. So us talking here now, podcasts, the way people learn is totally different now, the way people take in information, so this is probably a new era of that as well, that Gemini ascendants are going to be able to put that out there in those kind of ways. They don't need to get a book deal anymore to get their information out there. They can put it out in new ways.
Yeah, no, and that's happening too.
Yeah, yeah,
Self-publishing is becoming
yeah,
really big. So yeah, that's definitely a good possibility too. And using AI to write books is also a thing now too. Yeah, that's
yeah. I don't know how I feel about
yeah, I don't know how
that.
well, there's also like when it comes to like publishing and things like that, when we're talking like the those types of things, and the sun being the third house of communication and things is kind of interesting because there's actually strikes going on with was it BAFTA or MAFTA? I can't remember. It's the people that do the audiobooks, where
All right,
Audible has now used AI to read books. And
right.
so that, but they're not passing on that savings to the customers
Okay. All right.
either.
Okay.
So they're making boku bucks off of,
Well, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's
Well,
also a thing. Just
that is, yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah,
That's exactly what we're talking about pretty much
yeah,
here. But what becomes impersonal, that's the Aquarian energy, isn't it?
yeah,
We lose that little bit of, personality, or, that little spark that's unique to each person.
yeah, exactly. All right, after Gemini is Cancer and Cancer rising.
Hmm.
Yeah, so Cancer is going to be going through similar themes to what
Yeah.
Gemini's went through, but it's going to be a little different flavor because that Sun conjunction for Cancers, I mean, this is their Sun Pluto conjunction in the seventh house. This is kind of really bringing up and highlighting the toxic relationships that they've had, right? Or toxicity in their one-to-ones. The final time that it's highlighting even the
Yeah.
old traumas and old wounds and things like that, because it does rule their fifth house too, of like of what
Yeah.
find fun, sex, romance,
Yeah.
things like that. And the sun rules their second house of like how they make their money. So their contracts could be coming up for review in terms of how they're relating to other people, or even the narcissistic type personalities, especially
Yeah.
with that like that Pluto energy that they're attracting, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of being highlighted in a really big way. And then it's the sun and Pluto are going to be moving into the eighth house. And so then it's going to be bringing up dealing with all those traumas that maybe have been collected over the Pluto transit
Yeah.
in the seventh house, right? Oh, poor Cancer risings. No, it's not going to be all bad, right?
No,
But it's
but
it's definitely going to be psychological, and maybe even
mhm,
doing like alternative therapies like hypnotherapy, or
definitely.
instead of talk therapy doing what is it, QRRT or QRRH,
Yeah.
something like that, right? Like
Yeah. Quantum healing and
quantum healing.
NLP, things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And yeah, all
Yeah.
of those. Past life regressions also a thing. Future life progression also a thing, right? Seeing what's coming in your future could also be a thing because that's also an Aquarian thing.
Yeah.
And so really getting clear about what's going on in the transformation of your psychological wounds and traumas and things like that, I think, for sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And the only thing I'd add to that is because it's ruling the fifth house, we have this knowledge, we have this kind of awareness with astrology. It's helping people know these things. So, when these things are coming up, we can kind of, we can see relationships that might be, we could kind of have a radar on and things like that, and know that this might progress into that. But also using that creativity, using our hobbies, using our passions to actually as a healing therapy, as to
Mm,
work through those things, to transform that energy. And because like it is going to be Aquarian, it is going to be, like what we were talking, alternative therapies or whatever, but also using that kind of um anything that we're interested in, and that could be, online, or that could be photography, or it could be, a digital drawing or whatever, but whatever our passions or our creativity, to kind of bring that into the therapeutic aspect with regards to moving through this energy, because
Yeah.
having that awareness and knowing that is going to help. Because it is a hidden house, it's a harder house to kind of tangibly say, oh, how do we work through this? And it is a transformation. Pluto loves this house because it's like it's their house. Like, it's like, that's what the same theme is. That's, death, rebirth, regeneration. There's going to be losses, but there'll be losses of self to make space for those new areas. So,
Ego deaths,
um,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So using that to, as part of this, as part of those healing therapies, is something that you could bring in as well. And there could be joint finance things or inheritance issues as well. They
Yeah.
can definitely be a feature here during this time, and maybe some kind of power and control. But, and then you could also get very lucky with some financial, investments with AI and crypto, but that's not financial advice or anything like that. That's a whole
So
different thing.
we do not give financial advice. We are
No,
not
not at
financial
all.
professionals.
Yeah,
The
but
other thing
it could be
too,
definitely something, huh?
like obsessive about money coming
Yeah,
in from an outside source as well, right?
yeah,
Like whether or
passive
not,
income.
yeah, passive income or money coming in through a spouse or something like that. There could be that obsessive quality with Pluto transiting there as well.
Yeah, and just kind of being aware of those things and being aware of the pitfalls of those things, because it can bring, big losses and big gains. So just kind of, knowing those things and not, getting too kind of caught up in it all is going to be important, especially for Cancer rising at this time.
Yeah, for sure.
You know.
I think
So
that's
yeah, the next sign is Leo, and that's another fixed sign. So that means it's another angular sign, and it's in the seventh house. So what Shannon was just talking about with, relationships, toxicity, business partnerships, open enemies, all those things, they're all going to be kind of featuring for Leo risings at this time, and they're moving from that space of focus on health and transformation of their physical health and their bodies and things like that into, the seventh house. So now you have to deal with your relationships and what's going on there. And there could be some power and control issues, or a need for equality and fairness is definitely going to be an Aquarian relationship. And also, freedom in relationships, having that kind of, ability to be able to be yourself, be an individual while in relationship. You're not in the relationship there's no codependency here. It's very much because you want to be there.
yeah.
And
I
that's ruling the fourth house too. It's
yeah.
like, so, you might also want to bring in, there could be some healing with regards to parents, with regards to, home ancestry roots. You might want to make your own traditions or do your own thing. You don't want to necessarily go down the road of what has happened before. You're kind of rebelling against those things maybe as well. So there's that going, but it is going to hit all aspects. It's going to hit career, it's going to hit its opposite, who you are. So who are you in relationships? What do you value in relationships? How do we, rehaul how we see and what we want in our relationships? And you might lose some, you might gain some very kind of
Yeah.
powerful relationships, and very kind of, maybe magnetizing, intensely attracted relationships, things like that could come in. Who knows what's going to happen for some people, but I think if you have a strong relationship at the start, it'll kind of, you're going to move through those things, and you'll be stronger again at the end. Do you know what I mean? So, because you're going to really, regenerate that as well. So that could be another thing that, if your relationship needs to be kind of
Overhauled.
revitalized in some way, yeah, that could happen too. But yeah, that's kind of what I have for that. Do you have anything to add?
I think the fact that the Sun Pluto conjunction is happening and Leos are ruled by the Sun, right? This is
Yeah.
them taking
Mm,
things into their own hands, right? Taking
yeah.
their daily routines, taking their work, taking their health, taking, right? It's also a mental health, right? Taking
Yeah.
their own
Mhm.
mental health into their own hands and working with relationships, working with people, even one on one, and getting deep with those
Yeah.
individuals, right?
Yeah.
Or even
Definitely.
groups and having classes with people and getting really deep with them and getting them to understand, how to transform themselves, right? through relationship. There's definitely a big relationship focus when it comes to Pluto transiting the seventh house. And like you can attract narcissists with this placement,
Yeah.
right? With this transit. I've seen it happen with the Cancer rising specifically. And I'm
Right.
wow, some of the stories that
Okay.
I've heard are pretty intense. But like transforming even from that core level, because Pluto is the modern ruler of the fourth house of where we come from as
Yeah.
Leo risings, right? Where we come from, the roots, the family of origin, your ancestors, and there could be even secrets revealed about the family. Or
True.
maybe, right, with the sun here coming conjunct Pluto in the sixth house, there's something, and moving into Aquarius in the seventh, there could be something that's being revealed in your daily life with your parents, or something that's being revealed on the daily life from your home as well,
Yeah.
and
And with your
property,
marriage or,
or a marriage.
business partnerships, that's going to start. That could be something that comes up too with the sun moving into Aquarius
Yeah.
with Pluto. So yeah,
And
that'll be fun.
the sun hits its detriment as well, right?
Right.
Being in the
Exactly. Yeah.
opposite sign.
Yeah.
So, but where, I guess the question would be, what relationships need to be destroyed in order to have the vulnerability that the Leo desires, right? Because some Leos are in great relationships, right? Some Leos, they're getting deeper with their relationships as this transit happens. And then some Leos are like, I'm just going to burn it all down and walk away from everyone, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
coming for Leo rising specifically, but it's almost like there's something either out of their control or something that they themselves are working on in their daily life with their relationships as this transit moves through.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make
That's a
sense?
good point.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
And then after Leo is Virgo, right? So Virgo rising specifically, this transit through Pluto has been in the fifth house. And with the sun here, the sun rules the 12th house, and it's coming conjunct at the very end degrees of that fifth house. There could be secret relationships, secret affairs
Wow.
that are
Yeah.
revealed, right? When it comes to fifth house of like sexual partners and things like that. There could be things being revealed to you about your children if you have them, right? Because fifth house is also children, or something that really comes to light, something that maybe is a little bit nefarious with it could even be with like siblings or neighbors or something like that, right? Because it's
Yeah.
Pluto is the traditional ruler of the third house for
Yeah.
Virgo risings. There could be something nefarious coming to light with like your hobbies and like your neighbors, something like that. I know a Virgo rising, I'll give this as an example because I have no earth in my chart. Like I have no planets in earth in my chart. So I attract all the earth placements, right? It's a total thing. And I know a few Virgo risings that are having issues with the things that they love to do, and people being subversive and very like what is it, manipulative with them
Right.
about it, and
Okay.
trying to like pull them away from that. So there could be something being revealed at this time with this Pluto Sun conjunction, and then it moves into the sixth house of, okay, this is what I need to work on, right? So I need to change up what I'm doing every day, and I need to take things into my own hands when it comes to this, right? Like I need to work on this. This is something that's going to be long term, long, with Pluto here for 20 years, it's going to be something that they're
Yeah.
going to work on. There could be health issues that pop up, psychological things that pop up too, especially with Pluto and it being a mental house as well. Like ruminating, because this is what we're doing every day, obsessively ruminating on things, right? That are kind of in our future, because Aquarius is a future oriented sign, or it could be obsessively working with technology to
True.
working with technology every day, right? Things like that. Um, and looking for the deeper meaning in the daily life could also be a thing too, like just as a general
Yeah.
thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's exactly what it could be. And even there could be The only thing I'd say is like maybe their workplace could radically change, you know, where they're actually working
Yeah.
and their colleagues, or there could be some kind of issues with colleagues as well. You know, there could, you know, these things could pop up. But yeah, definitely I think building resilience and communication and how they handle that and changing how they might do that on a daily basis, you know, with that third house energy there being ruled by Pluto. And then also you know, yeah, I think that rumination is a good point because, you know, with the Scorpio third house, that could be difficult for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, I think that's a great point that you made, and it would be something that I would like to take away if I was a Virgo moving into the sixth house, because I'm coming out of that sixth house transit with Pluto now. Had I known back in 2008 this information, I would have really gone, okay, I need to take control of my days. I need to take control and give myself that space to be healthy, to because Virgo, you know, they're going to want to help everyone. They're going to want to, you know, support everyone. They're going to do everything they can, you know, for everybody else, like, and put them first. But you know what? Look after your health, look after yourself, get your pets around you, get your comfort, you know, get all those things
Yeah.
and really, you know, give yourself that space. And especially if they're being kind of, like you were saying, people were trying to, you know, stop them from doing the things that they love to do or whatever, that, you know, give yourself that freedom and not have that guilt or anxiety that Virgos tend to hold on to and experience, you
Yeah.
know, to, you know, it's okay to look after yourself and put yourself first.
Yeah.
And in your daily routine, just to give yourself that bit of space. Every day is not a chore, you know, that would be kind of what I would hope take from that. That was a great kind of, when you
Yeah.
said that, really resonated.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a little bit different too, just because of the, even though it's a sign that's ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology, it's still
Yeah,
very different than Capricorn, right? So there
definitely.
needs to
Yeah,
be that freedom. Whereas like
yeah,
Capricorn, it's you need that
yeah,
structure, you need that
yeah.
hyper
The
fixated.
discipline.
Yeah.
You need to be accountable.
Exactly. Okay, so after Virgo is Libra.
Libra, yeah. So
Yeah.
this is a nicer one because it's in the fifth house,
Mm.
you know, in ways. So, you know, you get to kind of work on your creativity, maybe transform, you know, things like that. If you're an entrepreneur, you might come up with some new and exciting inventions or new and exciting, you know, technologies or ways to do things. So this is kind of really interesting, or you might get really obsessed with things like that, or you could go down that path of, like, you know, being online way too much in certain areas of life that you don't want to be involved in.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it could be also turning your passion or your hobby into an income, because, you know, Pluto's ruling that second house. So this could be something that you really kind of dive deep into, and, you know, it becomes something that, you know, you can actually make a living from. And this is like a whole new thing that other people, you know, have never come up with, or you can, you know, get on board with something like that. But it's also the house of, like you said, sex, romantic partners, you know, before marriage and things like that. So there could be some very kind of, you know, um in like intense relationships that come up.
Yeah,
You know, these can be a
intense
feature.
boyfriends,
Yeah.
girlfriends,
Yeah.
personalities, intense
Yeah,
personalities in
yeah,
relationships. Yeah,
exactly. And that narcissistic element that you were talking about earlier, that's definitely something that can come up and be a factor. And that's going to show you something. It's going to bring something for a reason. And the fact it's in Aquarius is a little bit better, because you might have that little bit of independence and that little bit of separation from that, that you might be able to say, you know what, this is not for me, and I don't want that, you know, power, you know, or control or gaslighting or anything like that. And you're able to kind of have that independence, and, you know, you have your boundaries and your limits. So that's something that's there, you know, that will be a saving grace in that, you know, way. But be aware of that, like, that's something that can happen. Another thing to be aware of, you could also, if it's great, it's very auspicious for anybody wanting to have children, you know what I mean? But if you don't want to have children, just be aware of that also, that that's something, you
yeah,
know, that could transform your life and, you know, bring children in. Like, I know when Pluto moved into was in my fifth house, that's when I had my children. It's, you know, that was when I kind of, you know, had my kids and whatever. So yeah, it's like, you know, focusing on your passions, focusing on your creativity and relationships and things like that, and seeing where they bring you, you know what I mean, and what happens in that. But there'll be a lot of transformational energy in that area. And being in Libra, a Libra ascendant, you know, you are kind of inclined to want to be in partnership. So this is something that if you are looking for a relationship, you might just find somebody that you can't be without for the rest of your life, and you find that person during this transit. So hopefully it's something like that.
There's also too, the fifth house is also the house of self-expression too,
Mm.
right? Like how you express
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
And so expressing yourself in a completely different way, right? Burning down like an old personality or an old persona
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
expressing as a completely, different, maybe a little wilder, right? With Aquarius
Yeah.
energy. Or just also too, though, being aware that Pluto in the fifth house, I have noticed, can make people a little bit more, it can make people a little bit more selfish. Pluto in the
Right.
fifth house.
Okay. Yeah.
That's definitely, I've seen that with some people where it depends on what sign though, right? Like it
Yeah.
depends on what that is. But I've also seen it be like people really being hyper focused on what it is that they're passionate about, to the point where they have blinders on and they don't see anything else. They can't see
Right. Yeah.
anything else,
Yeah.
right? Because it's in the fifth
It's
house, but
obsessive.
it's squaring the second house, it's squaring, right? So like
Yeah.
squaring the eighth house opposite the 11th. So it's like there's this hyper fixation and this hyper focus as well on the things that they're truly passionate about. So be aware that sometimes maybe when people say you're being a little obsessive, to kind of reel it
Yeah,
back
that's
in a
true.
little bit and evaluate, right?
Good advice.
Yeah, just reel it back in a little bit. But yeah, that's what I also see. But I agree 100%. Like it's definitely like completely transforming like your life with your kids, if that's something that you're interested in doing, or even not doing, right? As
Yeah,
a choice,
exactly.
because there's a lot
Mhm.
more people not having children these days. So that's a
Exactly.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I
There could
agree.
be some new technologies that come up as well for people to enable them to have children. That could be something that's a new thing that comes about, and it could be a much easier process, and helping people out, in those ways, which would be great.
I wonder too about surrogates with Libra rising specifically,
Oh yeah, that could be something.
right?
Oh yeah, that's
Surrogacy,
good.
making money through
Thought.
pregnancy.
Yeah, maybe because the second house as well. But yeah, you never know.
Never know. Scorpio is next. So Scorpio risings, the Sun Pluto conjunction is happening in the third house of
Mm.
communication and even small business too, right? This is where we have
Yeah.
small business. Your community, the community that you're part of and live in. It's also like early childhood education, things like that. So that Pluto has been transiting here and kind of really revamping how it is that you, it's a mental house, so like your mental fortitude, right? That would be something that I would say with Pluto in the third house is mental
Yeah.
fortitude as well. And the Sun ruling the 10th house of career and public reputation and how you're known out in the world. This conjunction could be communicating something really powerful with your legacy, with who you are out in the world, how the public sees you. This could definitely be a thing for them. And then it moves into that fourth house of home, right? So what are you bringing home with you? Right? Are you
Yeah.
bringing in toxicity? Are you allowing toxicity in the home? Right? Because Pluto is definitely one of those things where
Yeah.
it can be a toxic planet, but this is also on an angle. So, like, what are you transforming behind the scenes? How are you transforming behind the scenes? Those types of things, right? For sure. And even like where you're living, how you're living. And so because Pluto, does rule the self, or the modern ruler of Scorpio, it's what are you doing on the home front? What are you transforming? How are you transforming? What is going on with your parents? What's going on with your property? Right? Like be aware of the positive and the negative with that as
Yeah.
well, I think. And utilizing technology, right? Especially in the home front. Like I know there's several people that their entire houses are smart houses, right?
Smart
Like
homes. Yeah.
I just, it boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. I can't imagine. That's a no thank you for me.
Yeah, that could be a thing now, especially for Scorpio rising. That could definitely be a thing that everybody kind of Well, not everybody, but I know a lot of Scorpio rising who wouldn't do that,
Right.
but it could be something that kind of, or they could kind of rebel against that being, the house, in Aquarius, but you don't, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I agree, 100%.
Do you have
This
anything
could,
else
it
for
could
that?
all, yeah, I mean, it could also be like that they renovate their homes or they change homes and things like that, or along those lines. But yeah, it could be again that kind of energy of changing traditions, changing, how they were reared and how they grew up, and maybe wanting to create their own traditions or new ways of doing things. Um, or they could get really like obsessed with investigating their heritage and their family background, their roots and ancestry. That could be something that they find out as well, yeah, I think you covered like everything. There could be some, I suppose, family traumas that come up either. That could be another thing that needs to be worked through. That would be with parents or something could be revealed, like you said earlier, from the past, from families, or going forward, something could be revealed that's happening or that's coming up, so in a family home as well. So that could be, those things could all be highlighted or be a feature of the next transit that's coming up over 20 years. So I mean anything could happen, but these are all topics of things that could occur during this time.
Yeah, I would definitely say so for sure. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So Sagittarius is next, and that's kind of what you were talking about with that third house. They're moving out of the second house. So they've kind of, you know, a lot of this generation are also kind of just starting to kind of get into that working age as well. Like, some people with, Sagittarius ascendant. So they're moving out of that second house and moving into the third house. So it's after transforming their worth, their self-worth, their values, and how they make their money. And, I suppose their work ethic, things like that. And that's moving now to that third house. So, and again, like you said, that is that house of merchants and working, and I think there probably be a lot more people working for themselves online. They're going to be like entrepreneurs, but it's all through digital marketing, people, influencers and that kind of thing. It's going to be entrepreneurs that are just, they never worked in a regular job. They only ever worked for themselves,
Yeah.
utilizing this kind of thing. And Sagittarius rising, they're going to be very kind of, optimistic in these things, and they're going to like put themselves out there, and it's going to be great. But yeah, I think that mental fortitude is something, depending on what other planets are in that house as well, that's definitely something that's going to need to be kind of built on, and and recognized for them, because their communication and how they put themselves out in the world, and also in their community and with their family, their siblings and things like that, that could be something. And because it's ruling the 12th house, Pluto's ruling the 12th house, that mental fortitude is definitely something that they might need to kind of solidify and make sure that everything is good, because we do have this kind of fast moving society. Everything is um you know, digital now, and everything is just like your attention span has gone down to 30 seconds, basically before you move on to the next thing. And, you know, these kind of things, people are scattered, it's hard to focus, it's hard to concentrate. So that can cause, I think, some mental health, you know, issues, overwhelm, overload, burnout, and all those things. So looking after themselves in that way is going to be something that's going to be necessary as well, because we do have, and that narcissism element too, that if you're online all the time and you're putting yourself out there, so just being careful that you're not communicating in those ways and watching that. But yeah, other than that, there could be like I think there'll be a lot of community elements to that as well. Like it could even be that they see where they live, where they, their local area, their neighborhoods totally change in the next few years, and how they kind of do everything down to like what we were talking about banking, but even how we go about our daily, going to the shop and buying things. There might not be people anymore that we interact with in our daily lives anymore. That might be gone, and that's something that's kind of important in the world. I feel it's like a nice, and especially for some people who maybe don't see anybody else, like, you know what I mean? And this is all that they have. Like, so these kind of things are kind of going to change, and we might see a lot of those kind of things. But yeah, other than that, then I don't think there'll be too much hardship for them in those areas. It's kind of the 12th house um aspect of it is something to consider, that there could be some kind of um or they could become, much more involved in meditation, and that could be something, and those kind of strengthening things, and those kind of things will help in that fortitude, that mental fortitude that you're talking about, that those kind of things are going to be a tool that can be used in those areas, leaning into your inner workings and your intuition, and solidifying those kind of practices daily, maybe, so that you can kind of make sure that you do move through these transformational times in a way that kind of keeps your mind and your communication healthy.
Yeah, I definitely see that. And I think too, bringing in the aspect of like that 12th house, with Pluto, especially being very discerning with how you're going about communicating, how you're moving
Yeah,
within your community, right? Because it's also commute as well. But
yeah,
also
true.
like how you're being very precise with how you're communicating as well would be a thing, right? Because Pluto is definitely that very hyper fixated, hyper focused, being precise with your words, being, Sagittarius risings in general communicate things kind of ahead of their time anyway. So how they're communicating could kind of take a little bit of a an amplification in this, right? Where they're communicating things that have far reaching consequences, or they're communicating things that are really intense, or
Yeah.
talking about things that are kind of macabre, or
Mhm.
right, like so,
Yeah,
things that can even be triggering to other people they could be
yeah,
talking about.
true. Yeah,
um and with the sun here coming in and conjuncting at the very end of their second house, and then moving with Pluto into the third, it could be that they're taking some type of education or higher mindset, and deciding, being very clear about the money that they want to make, and communicating that and kind of speaking that into reality as well, I would say.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like
a really good point.
if we're going to be bringing in like magic into this, and
Yeah.
but like it's definitely like things, and also too communicating things from beyond the veil, because that 12th house is definitely more spiritual, but it's beyond, right? It's beyond the veil.
Yeah,
It's beyond
yeah,
us in our physical selves. That could also be something too.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, they could be bringing, and also innovation through that kind of channel energy, or dreams and things like that. They say Einstein, that's how he got a lot of his information. So you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Capricorn
Capricorn is next.
Yeah, so they've gone through the gambit with with Pluto in the first house.
Yeah, I
So
know.
they definitely need to be helping the Aquarius risings for sure
Yeah,
muddle through this. But Capricorn rising specifically, I mean, their entire being has been transformed, right? All aspects of their life have been transformed when it comes to the self, the body, their relationships, their home life, their career. It's all gone through this intense transformation. Um, and with Capricorn, it's the sun rules their eighth house, and so this could be something going on, especially with the conjunction in the first and then moving into the second. There could be some money coming in, right? Where they're taking, because in the first house, I always like to say this in class, right? Anytime you see planets in the first house, it's within control of the person. I can't get away from that, because anytime I see planets in the first house, it always seems like that area of life that the planet rules in the chart, and the planet, what the planet represents itself, is always within the control of that person. Or it's a big theme that they have kind of domain over, right? Does that make sense?
okay. Yeah, 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 for sure.
So I definitely think having the Sun Pluto conjunction at the end degrees of their first house, they themselves could be coming out of kind of the closet, so to say, right? As
Okay.
because everything's been transformed, right? Their entire life has been
Yeah.
transformed by this point. And like, and using either money coming in from an outside source, because the sun does rule the eighth house, or some type of inheritance or some type of debt, uh, to make their own money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
What was it? The rich dad, poor dad guy? I can never remember his name. But he talks about not leveraging your own money to make money. And so Capricorn risings could have that, going on specifically, right? The
Mhm.
other thing is that for Capricorns, Pluto rules the 11th house of their social networks, the people they surround themselves with by choice. Some of these Capricorn rising people could even be starting their own charities or their own, right? Like
Yeah.
activism groups kind of thing, and
Yeah.
making money that way and getting money donations and things like that as well. Just as something that's tangible, that's realistic, that we could say is happening, because it is the money houses, right?
Yeah. And they could be working with those Sagittarius rising to create those communities like the
Yeah,
one behind you there.
right.
That's, I said earlier, I don't know how that could happen, but they could. You know what I mean? I'm a Leo rising, so that's not my area right now.
Yeah.
But everybody has a part to play, so
Mhm.
that's definitely something that could happen. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, using technology, using kind of all those things to, these kind of inventive ways and, you know, new ideas, that's definitely something that the Capricorn risings will excel at because it's in their second house. It's how they're going to be looking to make money. And also they're strong leaders, so they're gonna know how to put the steps in place for longevity and to make it happen and work strategies and work towards things like so. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really kind of interesting thing. So you can see it all kind of starting to fit out. We'll know who to go to
Go to the
for different
Capricorns,
things.
right? Oh, that's so funny.
So
Okay.
Aquarius is next.
Yeah. Oh
So
boy.
Aquarius rising, it's in their house. So like a question as a theme for this is who am I? Who am I? What am what physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these things. And like you said, that it's literally moving from their 12th house. So the sun has been is lighting that up right now. What have you been doing? What have you transformed? It's a hidden house. It's a big transit for people in Aquarius ascendant. It's in their first house of their body, who they are, who they present themselves to be in the world, all those things. So it's leaving the 12th house where they've been transforming subconsciously, even if they don't know it. I'm sure even their sleep patterns have been hit, their spirituality, all those things that have been going on behind the scenes. They might have had some hidden enemies pop up and things like that that kind of shocked them. They could have had some losses of friends, losses of people, things like that. There's the shadow work has been going on with them, and that's been highlighted now and wrapped up. But there could have been some self-sabotage and patterns, addiction, things like that. All those things have been showing up, and that needs to be wrapped up and put to rest to move forward. And who are they now? Even their appearance, like they could change how
Yeah.
they look. It's like my husband has this, and he's totally changed his appearance as this moved into this 29th degree. I can see, and in a long time he's looked a certain way and now he looks very different. But it's great. It's radical. But it's as a person, it'll be depending on if you have planets there. But it's going to hit your ascendant at some point. It may not do it for a long time. You might not feel it because it's only going to affect the first 2 degrees, this year. So you might not feel it for a while, but it's also ruling your 10th house. So we have to bring in this career element. All the angles are going to be affected as well. But it's still going to bring in this career. So, your career might change up. You might decide, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be that person out in the world anymore. I don't want to be known for my career. I want to be known for some humanitarian cause because it's Aquarius and, or as an inventive mind or, all these things that Aquarians are. And they're fun. They are fun people and that they love to kind of help other people and all this. So yeah, it's kind of you know, a focus on their legacy. Maybe they want to make their mark in the world, and how do they want to do that? Who do they want to be remembered as? What do they want to do right now going forward, and how do they want to, you know, they could be the ones taking action and being rebellious, and, you know, making these changes and calling to communities, calls to actions to bring, you know, to make these changes and to bring this freedom and equality about, you know, so they could be the rebel raisers that kind of, you know, make all this kind of happen, and things like that. So that's what I would say about that. What would you say? Have you
I
anything
would,
to add?
I definitely would agree with that wholeheartedly. And with this sun conjunction happening in the 12th house, what's being highlighted right now is how they have completely compartmentalized their
Yeah,
insecurities or their old traumas or old wounds and things like
yeah,
that, right? And so what could be happening, especially because the sun rules their seventh house, their partner could be bringing to light like
yeah,
where they've been self-sabotaging, where they've been toxic in their own heads, right? Because the 12th house is also that mental house as well, right?
mhm,
It's
yeah,
one of those.
true.
So it's like where have they been sabotaging, where have they been so compartmentalized in their dealings with everyday life that they haven't dealt with anything that's behind the scenes, right? It could be that as well. Just not for all Aquarius risings obviously, but for
No.
some of them, right?
But it
um
is in Capricorn too. So there is that kind of, you know, holding yourself together. Don't put that out there. Don't let people know, you know,
yeah.
let's just, you know, do the right thing, you know.
Right. And with that Sun Pluto moving in, maybe they could either through their relationships with other people in career, right? If we're bringing in both the seventh and the 10th house into the first, they could be now expressing that and talking about how those
Yeah.
deep psychological things have changed them or how or the healing that they've gone through, right? Like that's
Yeah.
also a thing as well. So there could be some things going on there. But yeah, with Pluto in the first house, they themselves, their physical being, their physical appearance, their body, definitely going through like a breakdown for a breakthrough. And with it leaving that 12th house, it's the mental breakdown for the breakthrough in the physical body, right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense how I'm saying that?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Because they've kind of deconstructed all those subconscious things. They may have been highlighted over different times over since 2008, where, you know, like the sun is highlighting it now, but it's also done that over all
Yeah.
those years. And, you know, all these things are coming up at different times, and, you know, worked through that. And now it's kind of, yeah, exactly deconstructed that. And now it's moving into, you know, the physicality of it. It's like, it's a cadent house, so it's preparing you for
Yeah.
moving into this physical element of and putting yourself out there in this new way. So I'd say a lot of Aquarius people will maybe shock some people, and
Yeah.
maybe shock people in relationships as well, because it's like they are going to be different. You know, not right now, not straight away, but they've gone through a mental transformation, a spiritual transformation, emotionally, you know, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on their physical health as well, because that's the opposite house there to the 12th. So now this is going to kind of move into the first, and have that effect on relationships too. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. And even it could even be like secrets coming to light through partnership as well.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
could be a
Yeah.
thing too. So Pisces, we're up to Pisces, the final one. So I mean, Aquarius risings need to help the poor Pisces out because the
Yeah.
poor Pisces are going to have to deal with this for 20 years. Um, so yeah, Pisces have been dealing with the Capricorn influence in terms of their 11th house, right? Their social network, the people that they surround themselves with, the causes that they get behind and are like championing, right?
Hmm.
And so with the um the Pluto Sun conjunction happening, this could be have to do with their work, some type of travel or education, their worldview, right? Something here is coming to light in their friends groups, or maybe even a friend is highlighting something to do with either their work, their health, or maybe they're getting a deeper understanding of how their daily life has affected their overarching views of the world around them, right?
Yeah.
Or even how their views are affecting their daily life, and the toxicity
Yeah.
needs to go, right? This
Yeah.
is also, coming out of the house of friends. This could be even releasing toxic friendships.
Definitely.
Narcissistic relationships with friends could definitely be a thing here too. But with it coming into the 12th house, there's definitely this sense of like, I kind of like Pluto and Aquarius for the Pisces rising
I
specifically,
do. Yeah.
just because it's that spiritual component, and they
Hmm.
have this weird connection with spirit
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah.
So getting hyper focused about that connection, and maybe even utilizing like the technology, like they have these devices that you can put on your head that will put you into beta waves or put you into alpha waves, like all the different waves of the brain. They have these devices that you can actually put on your head that will put you into that state automatically,
Wow.
right?
I did
And
not know that.
yep, I'm into technology, I'm into space, I'm into all the weird stuff. But
That's
for
cool.
for Pisces rising specifically, it could be utilizing technology for a deeper, more profound spiritual healing, right? And it could be things,
Yeah.
right? It could be addictions and compulsions and things like that coming to the surface, self-sabotaging tendencies even with this. Like, what are you holding on to tightly, that is not really serving you, that you need to liberate yourself from, right? What do you need to rebel against within
Yeah.
yourself,
That's
within
great.
your
Yeah.
psyche, right? So there could definitely be some things like that going on, for sure. And like even health matters too, with the sun moving through with Pluto at the same time, right? Your health, your work, what you're doing every
Yeah.
single day, you could really be kind of taking that step back to look at it, or also looking
Mhm.
at how you take rest, if you take rest. I mean, Pisces risings, they have that Aquarius 12th house. I don't know if they rest as much as they should.
True.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that I think like I like it more for Pisces risings. And it is because I think they have that mystical element to them and they can connect in that way in the 12th house, but they have like that compassion. So I think they can handle it better than most. I think they can handle it, in a way that's kind of easier than if they had like, a more earthy, solid
Yeah,
kind of,
like
energy going
Taurus
on there. But
rising. Yeah.
yeah. So like I mean, yeah, and maybe healing addictions or self-sabotaging or subconscious patterning in some way is something that's going to be. But yeah, I really like that you said that was liberating from those kind of things. But I would say maybe they could also, because it's ruling the ninth house,
Yeah.
Pluto is, so they could do some kind of like spiritual retreats. They could kind of travel for
Yeah.
away to far away places to get away from things and to give their mind that rest, or to give them, and have that, new belief system and things like that. And for that spiritual connection, because I think they're going to bring forward with Aquarius there quite a lot of things like we mentioned earlier, with, you know, um, getting that information through subconscious ways, whatever that may be. That can be through a myriad of ways to get there, like, and whatever it is, and it brings through a whole new set of like ideas, ways of doing things and all those things. So I think that interconnection and transformational work is going to be the theme for them, in this transit that's going to go on for years to come for them, depending on what else is in that house as well. So hopefully it'll be nice. But yeah, how do they connect with their divine self, their inner, everything they need to know is inside of them. So how do they find that? How do they express that, liberate it and bring it through? Like, so that's kind of what I would see for them. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah.
I wish I was a Pisces rising.
I know.
No, I don't.
Sometimes. No, not really.
I'm only messing.
But Jupiter,
But yeah,
you can't beat Jupiter. Sag and Pisces ruled by Jupiter, man. You can't beat that.
that's it. Yeah, no, and that's it. And they have that protective energy as well.
Yeah.
So, and Neptune there too. So you have that too. So that's really gonna like unleash, like they're probably gonna be the ones that bring forward all these new technologies, bring forward all these new things that we don't know about, and maybe even bring forward a way for the rest of us to know how to do that. They might show us how to do those connections or how to do those things, and allow us to experience their inner world,
Right.
things like that. Yeah.
I like
So
that.
who
Yeah,
knows? Mhm.
I like that. So yeah,
Time
that's
travel.
time travel. Oh my goodness. The only thing I can think of is like beam me up Scotty with this Pluto and Aquarius. Like, what is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Transporters, right? Those where
Yeah,
where
yeah,
they
yeah.
completely dissolve you into matter and then move you to a completely different part and you become matter again. Yeah.
Travel could be teleportation with the ninth
Oh my
house
gosh.
there.
Yeah.
Like you never know, they could create something like that, instant travel. I hope that
It's,
happens. That'll be amazing.
yeah, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy. I don't know if I'd want to do it. I think we would have to have them perfect it first.
Yeah, definitely.
0.00% error rate because who wants to have a hand growing out of their head, right? When they
Yeah, true.
when they're put back together. But I think that's it. That's what we
We
have.
did it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
did it. We
Any
got through them
closing
also.
any closing thoughts from your end?
No, just best wishes to everyone, and
Yeah.
work through the energy. Having this knowledge really guides you and gives you that kind of, it's a long transit. It's
Yeah.
going to be over time. So, give yourself the space and really kind of support yourself. Having this knowledge, knowing these things, and kind of, work with that energy to kind of bring the best of that transformation healing to you. And, that's kind of what I wish for everybody.
Me too. And also too, like the best piece of advice I can give is something that I read in one of Stephen Forrest's books, his book on Pluto, was work with Pluto before Pluto works on you.
Yeah, that's a great bit of
That's a
advice.
that
Yeah.
I
Mm.
read that and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put the book down because that's all I need
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And he has the wisdom, so he knows.
Yeah, so
For
definitely. And
sure.
yeah, just Pluto transits, man, they can be rough, but when they're through, it is a transformation. And that's
Yeah.
the great thing about Pluto is that it's not going to leave you the same way it found you.
Yeah, it's worth it in the end. It
Yeah,
just
for
takes a
sure.
bit of going. You have to remember that. That's what you have to remember as you're going through it.
Yeah.
There's something on the other side of this that will be better.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much,
Okay,
Jenny.
thank you.
Uh,
Thanks a
if
million.
if people want to book a reading with you or connect with you, where can they find you?
I have a website, astrosoulalchemy.com, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, but you'll find me more on Instagram under the same name. But yeah, so you can connect with me in any of those, or you can just email me at astrosoulalchemy@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shanna, for having me.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. We'll have to do this
Yeah, it
again.
was. It was good fun.
But yeah, so I'll link Jenny's stuff below and you can click on all of her things if you want to follow her. Any YouTube videos in the works for you, or are you still on the fence about that?
Still on my lunar progress moon is in the 12th house, so I'm still working on it.
Okay,
Nearly there. I like
nearly
doing it in
there.
collaboration. I like collaboration.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, to be continued then.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye.